I'm missing. Hello, everyone. You can hear me, but you can't see me. It's so funny.
Can you see me? Can they see
They
me?
can see you.
Hello, friends. I don't know.
And my headphones are clipping out at the top, distorting, which is new.
I will talk quietly.
It wouldn't be the show unless something else was not working. So I did make it into the studio by 10:30, but unfortunately
Impressive.
I've ghosted and I'm not on the screen. Let me test. If I flip to camera, well, maybe not while you're editing.
Oh, well, should I start the
Why? How
community
about?
links?
Well, hang on. Let me see if I can flip to you. There we go. Yes, everyone is looking at you now, John. So while
Hooray.
you take us through how much you love community, while we try and
Yeah.
fix my technical issue.
Yeah, in case you'd forgotten in the past month, because we have not been on for a month now.
Has it really
I
been a month? Yeah,
it's
okay.
been it
It's
was
holiday season. That makes sense.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay.
So I do love the community.
Okay.
And so let's start with this one. This is fun. So we've been sharing Shahed's
We're looking at my.
series.
Sorry, just 1 second. Now all of a sudden we're looking at my screen
Oh,
instead of
good.
looking at you.
Yes.
So
I
hang on.
think it's live now, though.
No, 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 no,
Whoa.
no, no.
Nope.
We're. Hang on.
Sorry, I
There we
got
go.
the.
No, no. It's still looking at my screen. So we can see David texting me saying I want to make a breaking change. There we go. Now we've got you up. Go for it.
You see my screen?
We see your screen now.
Hooray! Okay. So we're starting with Shahed's wrap-up post from last year. We had been sharing his great series, and there was a secret message. Happy New Year. So this was fun.
Oh.
I got to help plan some of these out with him. So a lot of great topics, great posts, and he had snuck a little message in there. And he started the year with an A through Z series. So his first, and this kicks off a little segment of this links section on authentication and authorization. So first of all, Shahed's doing this is kind of a walkthrough of what's available in authentication authorization, all the stuff, MVC, Razor pages, and links to documentation at the end. So this is a nice kind of overview of what's available in authentication authorization, and good stuff. This is kind of I think, getting familiar with what's there. So next, I want to jump into some kind of more interesting, deeper things people have looked at recently. This is cool from Tamaz. So someone asked him about putting authentication onto an SSE middleware, and as he talks about, coming soon with endpoint routing, this is going to get easier. But as it is now, it's relatively easy to authorize MVC or Razor pages, but to put authorization on middleware and policy-based authorization, he talks about two different ways. So first of all, just creating policy and then kind of, hooking it up. So creating the middleware, creating an extension to make it a little easier to wire it up, and then here, just saying, mapping to his middleware and then saying use authorization. So that's easy enough, but then he wanted to kind of take it a little further. So he actually created this with an attribute as well. So, kind of wired it in deeper. So using iAuthorize data and creating an iAuthrization policy, or using iAuthrization policy handler or provider. Sorry. So he kind of walks through how we set that up, and kind of at the end, getting to being able to, I'll kind of roll down here, being able to do use authorization and use authorization options for things like an employee, employee only, etc.
Okay,
And then
that's
as he
good. We're
calls out,
gonna we're gonna be able to do a lot of this. Hopefully, we're gonna do this stuff in 3.0, I think, as you mentioned.
yeah, yeah. So that would be nice, and I think this kind of makes the case for that. Like it's I mean the primitives are there. It's not that much code to wire it up, but it would be great to have kind of the same way that the ease of use of MVC or Razor Pages, be able to use that for middleware. Cool. So here's another. This is Jason walks through using. So he had previously written a tutorial on JOT authentication with ASP.NET Core 2, and here he's kind of expanded that out using role-based authorization, and goes all the way through. There's a lot of code here. I'm not going to go through it in detail, but he does show, for example, running an Angular 7 client app, the kind of how he's got things wired up, and so this is all based on using the JOT, wired up down here. So using JOT authentication. So good stuff. Some of this is just kind of like, this is standard code, right? So it's not as much code as don't be scared off. So
Well,
that's cool.
yeah, it's perfectly reasonable to be scared by Auth. I'm still scared by Auth, and I've been in this industry a long time and seen Auth evolve. And Auth is just complicated. There's really no, ifs and buts about it. It is complicated, and just when you think you understand it, something changes, and the industry changes and moves in a different direction. And there's even articles today. Windows is trying to get rid of passwords again by default, and that's going to introduce, that's based on a whole bunch of new standards. And then at some point, you might be asked to integrate those type of things into your application. You'll go have to learn about how to do all that. So it unfortunately, Auth is one of those areas that just continues to evolve because security is hard and it's a cat and mouse game. And that's one of the reasons why that area of ASP.NET has been somewhat volatile. Even in the 10 years I've been here on the system web-based Auth, it went through, I think, 3 different identity and Auth systems, landing eventually on the Katana-based stuff. And then even in ASP.NET Core, we've gone through at least 2 major revisions of the Auth API. We don't intend to do another one because we don't want to break anyone from this point forward in that way. But we'll have to keep adding things as things change. And the API authorization, which is something that we've been talking about, we hope to land before 3.0. We talked about that in the 2.2 planning with some integration with Identity Server. So that should be available hopefully in the coming couple of months. But that's more stuff, and then as we're seeing here in 3.0, as we've talked about already, we want to add support for doing authorization on other stuff other than just Razor Pages and MVC and APIs. You want to be able to do it on static files and custom middleware in the same type of way. So there's still a lot to do. Auth is just complicated.
Yep. Yeah. You mentioned the password list, and here's another link. So this is a FIDO2 web authn, I don't know how to pronounce that, web authentication, whatever, .NET library, right? And so this is, if you want to log into a site using something like a YubiKey. So passwordless, as you called out, and this is cool because there's an in-browser demo here to be able to do that. Cool. So, yep. And one other thing with authentication, this is kind of cool. So this is Amazon Cognito, which is a managed identity system, and so they have released an updated library to allow kind of plugging that into ASP.NET Identity. Nice. So if you're running on AWS with Cognito, then they have an identity provider for that as well. So, and this example shows kind of wiring it up in the middleware, and then being able to kind of get at information that's stored in a controller, etc. So. Neat stuff.
Cool.
All right, this is cool. This is from Dodi. Well, it's interesting, I think. This is from Dodi. We called him out recently because he's got this huge repo with all kinds of ASP.NET Core samples, over 100 of them, and keeps them up to date. This is something he tweeted recently. I thought this was neat. This is these are tag helpers for Razor Pages to make it easy to wireframe stuff. So as you see over on the left, he's just got things like form text area, that kind of stuff. And then it just wireframes things up. Now, at first I was kind of like, okay, that doesn't seem like a whole lot. But actually there's a good amount of stuff in there that it does do. For instance, support for things like it automatically fills in bootstrap classes. He's got a lot of utilities in here for things like text generation, lorem ipsum, that kind of stuff.
Okay.
So yeah, so just a neat idea with going through with tag helpers and just really quickly wireframe something up.
That's cool. And does it result in something that supports like click-throughs or interaction, or is it even more like what is the resulting thing on the right runnable like?
Honestly, I don't know.
Okay.
I think of wireframes as something you'd screenshot, but there may be something more, but I didn't see it in the source code.
Okay.
Cool. Okay, Damian. So this Damian Bowden. So he posted about using Resource Manager templates and Azure Key Vault. So Resource Manager, a good way to kind of write.
You mean Azure Resource Manager?
Yeah,
not
sorry.
The .NET Resource Manager class.
Nice, yeah. Azure Resource Manager for defining how you want something deployed out to Azure.
Right.
And then using Key Vault for secret storage. So I thought this was neat. We talked about both of them kind of separate in the past. This is nice. He kind of walks through setting those up together. So this is great being able to, like, for instance, I've used things like this recently with Resource Manager to be able to push it out to GitHub and not have to worry about secret storage. So nice walkthrough there. So this is a .NET Global Tool, .NET HTTP security check. So yeah, so being able to do things like script a security check, you can ping against a URL, and it'll give you it does things like checks for HSTS security, certificate validation, that kind of stuff.
Is this similar to is this like SSL labs at the command line type of thing? What's that one that everyone uses where they they go to the browser and they type in the URL and it gives you a report for how well the HTTPS stuff is?
I think that is like that. The nice thing here, like you said, being from the command line, this is something where I could see scripting it, have it even be something as part of a build process.
Right.
For instance, you can have it output to a text report. So, if you did want to automate something, maybe you could even, parse out of the text report or something.
Interesting.
Yep. Okay, Damian Hickey, Proxy Kit. So this is a toolkit for reverse proxies with ASP.NET Core middleware. So there's quite a bit here, all kinds of configuration for customizing and hooking things in. So I don't know. I think this looks pretty interesting.
So was this a new code base, or did they take a sample, or because we've had a long-standing request to ship. We have a sample proxy middleware. Oh, it does. It says it right there. So forked from the ASP.NET Labs. It's been heavily, so they started with the one that we have had in there for a while that we haven't productized yet, and it's turned it into, that's a very cool, wide variety of proxying scenarios, routing based on JOT. Very nice. And I think he made some claims regarding performance. I think I saw a tweet about this yesterday.
Yeah. So that's kind of down towards the end here.
About, within 5% of Nginx or 10% of Nginx or something.
Yeah.
Is that what it was?
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know. Yeah, I do remember him saying that, and I thought it was listed in here, but I don't see where it is.
Interesting. I'd like to understand what the difference. Oh, this is fantastic. So whoever wrote this is like inside my brain, because I was about to ask about how does this compare to Ocelot, and then if you look at point 13, look at that. So for those who don't know, Ocelot is a very popular .NET Core API gateway that's used by, we know it's used by a lot of our very large customers in sort of heavy distributed microservice-y sort of container-based workloads. So what does he say here? The general difference between API gateways and general reverse proxies is that the former tend to be message-based, which makes sense, whereas a reverse proxy is stream-based. Okay, that makes total sense. So an API gateway is a gateway to APIs, and most APIs are message-based, and thus the API gateway can do inspection on messages and do routing based on message headers and protocol use and those type of things. Whereas the proxy is based on point A wants to connect to point B over some type of connection, in this case a stream, and you get that level of operation based on where you're hooking in. So you could use both, I guess.
Yeah.
That's very cool. Okay, well, answer my question. Fantastic.
Interesting. Okay, here's an interesting post on soft deletes with EF Core. So with the idea with soft delete being deleting something, but it's not actually completely removed from your database.
Right.
So as he calls out in here, makes use of, there's global query filters, and this actually links over in the docs, and they point out that this is a use case in EF Core of global query filters is soft deletes. So you can actually put a query filter on your thing where you can, when you query for something, it automatically will filter out things where you've said is deleted, is true, or whatever. So the other thing that he's kind of made an update to in here is also overriding save changes, so that you don't have to have this code all the way through every time you delete, where you're saying like, well, is deleted is true, blah, blah, blah. So he actually kind of put that into save changes and centralized that in one place. Yeah. So just a common, business, I don't know, requirement. So there you go. Okay, InfoQ has this .NET Core series. I don't know if I featured any of these in the past. This series is, the series manager is Chris Woodruff, and he just posted a walkthrough of testing ASP.NET Core Web API. But there are several other good ones in here. Andrew Locke's book, we featured a million posts from him, distributed caching with ASP.NET Core. And then this walkthrough on testing ASP.NET Core Web API, Chris walks through setting up unit tests, mocking and stuff, and then also using integration tests. So walking all the way through that and ending up with integration testing as well. All right. This is a neat one. Only one Blazor link today. I'm sure we'll have more coming up in the new year. Jeremy Lickness wrote up this where he converted a previous project where he'd written it in Angular, and he updated it to Blazor. So this is a kind of health tracking application for tracking, computing things like BMI and stuff. So this is kind of neat. He goes through some things like a toggle button, so clicking to toggle between two Boolean values. And he also change notification is interesting, and slider bar. So yeah, just kind of hooking all this stuff together. And then validation is something that's come up on recently. So he deployed his using a Azure storage. So as a reminder, we've linked to this in the past, but you can easily deploy, or you can deploy Blazor applications since they're, it's static. You can deploy that out to Azure storage. So
cool.
Neat stuff. Yep. All right. Two kind of higher level posts, bigger picture ones. So this is cool from Mohammed Rahan Saeed. He's talking about, is ASP.NET Core a mature platform? So this is just kind of looking at, big picture, what's in ASP.NET Core, talks about, big things that he likes about it, what's there that he likes, etc. Some things that he'd like to see, change and improve in the future, caching, some sort of better integration with Let's Encrypt, HTTP 2 and 3. He does point out, of course, that 2.2 support for HTTP 2, and serving static files. So, that ending up, he's pretty happy with it. So yes is his answer. So if you don't want to read a lot, you could just jump to the end, and the answer is yes.
I read that article. It was a good article, and what I actually really liked about the article was all the things that he called out that were still sort of bugging him about the platform. It wasn't all roses, right? He called out the things that were still missing that he feels the platform should add. Other things that I still lose sleep over that we don't have.
Okay.
So the things that bug me are the same things that he's calling out. And again, this was another case where it was great to read a post from someone who seemed to care about the exact same things that I did, which means at least I feel like I'm somewhat in touch with some of our customers when that happens. But yeah, it was nice to see, and we're still trying to work on those things. So
good stuff. Okay, and the last one, this is from MSDN Magazine, and this is just from the Scott Hunter's article, What's Coming in .NET Core 3, and there's a section in here on ASP.NET Core 3. And I know this is kind of early on, but exciting stuff in here. So
yeah, the big thing about this was that this was the article where we made sort of the first commitment to turning Blazor into a real thing. And so up until this point, we've always said Blazor is an experiment, Blazor an experiment. There is no commitment to making Blazor a product. If you use it at your own risk. We're trying it out, it's an experiment. But this is where we kind of came out and said that, well, Razor Components, which is the component model for Blazor, will ship on with the server-side rendering in .NET Core 3, and we will continue to invest in the .NET WebAssembly runtime. It says, right there, we'll continue to work on supporting Razor Components on WebAssembly using the interpreter-based .NET runtime, which we expect to ship in a subsequent release. So that is the first time that we've officially said that we expect to ship that and it will become a product. We don't have any timelines yet for when that will happen. We have obviously the server-side rendering using the Razor Components or Blazor server-side tech in .NET Core 3, but the client-side rendering on WebAssembly is committed, but we don't have a timeline as yet.
All right, good stuff. So that's all my links. I will be sharing them in the description and in the chat just a second. So now it's time, I believe, for the Ask Damian Anything questions.
All right, we had some questions on Twitter. Now I'm going to hit this button, Golnaz, and we'll see what happens. I'm still missing. There's no video.
Uh-oh.
Hit your video.
I'll hit my video. You ready? There's no signal. So you can all hear me, but you can't.
I can see you.
You can see me. You have a different camera feed.
What if I shared my screen?
Hang on, that might be the most ghetto solution ever. I'm hoping we can just type, unplug the camera and plug it in again or something. But unfortunately...
Can we reboot channel 9?
Well, unfortunately that would require the stream to go a little dead. Because if we, I think if we kill OBS, we're going to lose the stream.
Yeah.
And I don't know, can you just close OBS and reopen it and the stream will come back up again? It will, right? Like it's going to the same event. It should just work, right?
You guys want to try that?
I mean, we're not going to have a camera without it, I think, right?
All right.
Yeah.
Ready?
All right, so
Can we play elevator music?
Just hold for one moment, please, everyone, while we try and reboot